We're now joined by Coach Bruce Boudreau and Ryan Reaves from Overdrive. Now, guys, last night, Captain Auston Matthews said that the fans didn't have a lot of juice in them, basically saying they were a little quiet. He would have liked a little more energy. Hayes, do you like Matthews calling out the fans like that?
I think you need more context to it. It was 90 seconds into the game. Like, people were barely in the building. Auston knows that. Auston's been here for 9 years. He also knows, and I don't have an issue with him saying this, he's just admitting what everybody knows. That building on a Wednesday night in January is never loud. It wasn't loud when it was the Air Canada Centre. It wasn't loud when it was the Gardens, when Bruce was playing in it. A Wednesday night against Columbus is never going to be loud. 90 seconds in, that was a massive fight. Two heavyweights. I'm a bit surprised there wasn't more life, and this is where I think Matthews is going with this, because usually goals being scored, especially beauties, and big fights do get people electrified, especially in that building. So I understand where he's coming from. I think he's sticking up for his guy, too, right, Bruce? Where
100%.
Ryan Reaves' first fight of the year, it was a massive one. He took a couple of big licks, and when a guy like that goes out there and takes on a fight like that and throws bombs and takes bombs, you want a reaction from people, and they didn't get it.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as they didn't have success in the game, too. And I think as a leader, and this was his first really that I've heard, his comment about fans or anything coming out, and he was trying to take a little bit of pressure off of the way they played and put it back somewhere else. But I mean, hey, you're 100% correct on a Wednesday night. You're completely correct that I'll bet you there was 50% of the people weren't even in
Not even in there yet. They're still in the Gardner trying to get in the building.
Excited. And with Ryan Reaves' first fight, if this had been against a Montreal, let's say, and they're a tough guy, but I don't think anybody knows a lot about Matthew Olivier,
right,
and how tough he is. And this was a bona fide, maybe toughest versus toughest in the league, and it would have got excited. And I think what it did was it got Columbus more excited than it did Toronto, and they could have used that fan noise like it is when it's a playoff game in Toronto. It's electric, and you just love it. But I mean, you just don't get that every day. But I liked what he did, whether it was right, whether it was wrong, or whatever. He stood up for his team and tried to put the onus on something else other than the way they played.
It was also a premeditated fight, right? It's off the draw 90 seconds in. It wasn't after a big hit or a big forecheck or a big shift or middle of the game where you're anticipating. So, again, I'm not letting the fans off the hook. I understand where Austin's coming with this. I'd love to see the Scotiabank Arena be louder. 90 seconds in, premeditated fight. I think you got to be honest about that, at least throw a bit of a bone to some of the fans who were sitting on their hands.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce, if you want to expand just on Auston Matthews' comments, like, what are you saying to your captain if he says that after you get blown out by your opponent? Are you still okay with that?
You know what? It's not much. I mean, I'd probably at the morning skate here just go around and say, Auston, what'd you say that for? Like, I mean, give me your thought process behind it. And I mean, and if he just said, well, I was ticked off and I wanted to say something, or we lost, or I mean, if he had a good reason to say, okay, listen, just let's make sure that in the future you really watch what you say, because every media outlet in Canada is picking this up and running with it. So I mean, and it fits his first big thing that he's said since he became the captain. You know, like, I mean, you need a little bit of guidance along the way. But, I mean, I don't have any problem with him saying anything about that. It wasn't like he said the fans in Toronto are the worst, because they're not. They're the best. They're the most passionate that you want to know. I mean, go around to any grocery store and talk, and the first thing people will say is, see the game last night, you know, and they're all doing that. But, I mean, I think you're right. When it's 40 below and it's in January and people are just snuggling up and they haven't even got their first beer yet, it was hard to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, fans, all of us, we got the January blahs a little bit. And the Leafs' next home game is next Wednesday against Minnesota. So if you're listening, Leafs fans, let's get loud.